Hello everyone and welcome to the initial Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com. Alongside the Trentonian's George O'Gorman, I'm Mike Samsel. George, really excited for this. Every Wednesday you and I are going to sit down, take a look at the week coming up here in Mercer County, take a look at the week that was, and get the opportunity to pick your brain a little bit as well, which is always fun.
Well, you know, you got to wonder, Mike, where did this summer go? I mean,
Yeah,
all
it
of a
sure
sudden
has
now
feeling.
we're into football. I mean, it's never ending. I mean, it just goes from one season to another. We were just, seemed like only yesterday we were doing Babe Ruth baseball games. But now comes the exciting time of the season with the start of, well, we still call it CVC football, but it is the West Jersey Football League, and it kicks off Friday night with some very interesting matchups, including a early season showdown, I guess you would call it, between two teams that went to the playoffs last year and were fairly successful. Of course, Steiner will be at Allentown on Friday night, and the Spartans went all the way to the Central Jersey Group 3 Championship. And Allentown under Jay Graber had probably their best season ever. They went to the playoffs. They hosted Neptune, lost in overtime, and of course Neptune then goes on to win the Central Jersey title, beating Steiner with a big rally. So that's one game, and of course the other one is the team that many considered to be the best in Mercer County last year was West Windsor South, and they'll be inaugurating their new lighted stadium over there at Pirate Field in Princeton Junction. They got new lights. They got the turf in a couple of years ago, so they should have an outstanding team. And of course, they returned probably the best player in the CVC in Brian Schoenauer, who's on line to break the career rushing record in Mercer County, and he had a 1,700-yard season last year. He had a 1,000-yard season, I think 1,200 as a sophomore. And Brian's just a phenomenal player. And you know, despite the fact that they lost some outstanding players in South, with Chris Evans, the quarterback, and the TD Club Player of the Year, they still got some other good kids coming back, including 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. And they're a young team.
Yeah, absolutely. The entire right side of that starting line, center over to right tackle, is going to be back. And one of the other segments, I haven't even told George about this one yet. Every week, you're going to have the opportunity to ask George O'Gorman anything you want to know. You can pick his brain. We're going to call it Ask Oj. If you have any questions, you can email me, msamsel, S-A-M-S-E-L, at WBCB1490.com. So we'll debut that segment this week, and you're going to get a question from my brain. So I hope you're ready.
We'll try.
Mercer County Football Show is being brought to you by St. Francis Medical Center, the Heart Hospital in the city of Trenton, and also Haldeman Ford Subaru Route 33 in Hamilton Township. And George, the team we're going to take a look at first, a team that you and I are going to see a whole lot this year, Notre Dame. Certainly not the year they were hoping for last year, coming in at 5-5.
You know, it's very rare when Chappie has a non-winning season. Last year they finished 5-5, and I saw a stat that I think said that in all Chappie's years, I think it was the only time that Notre Dame wasn't over 500, and Chappie's been there over 30 years, you know, including his 2 stints as the Irish coach. But he's got some key people coming back. Of course, he's got Zach Thorpe, who's probably one of the outstanding overall versatile players in the Mercer County, and he's got another player, Carmichael, young sophomore or junior tight end now, wide receiver. He's an excellent player. And I don't know. I got to talk to Chappie to find out what the story is with Wally Nance, if Nance is back for them as their running back. He was playing as a sophomore and then played last year. And I know they got some excellent players. They got Prince Patterson in the secondary. Yeah. So they've got a few players in key positions. I think their defense is pretty solid. And, of course, you know, with Chappie Moore, John McKenna there, they're always going to be a contender. And, of course, they're the one team that doesn't open up this week. Yeah. They don't open up until the following Saturday in the morning at Hamilton, so that should be an outstanding game. Of course, the Irish this year are going to play for the second year the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. They'll play Nottingham. Yeah, that'll be a great game. This year the game will be at Nottingham, and it should be a great way to end the regular season. Looks like Wally Nance, from kind of the word on the street, has been that he's going to be a linebacker for Notre Dame this year. They expect Nico Safara, who's going into his junior year, to kind of be the featured running back there for new quarterback Rob Bakoven. Yeah, we saw Safara last year a few times as a backup running back, and he ran hard. And I don't know much about Bakoven. I was thinking about it when when I saw that Chappie was going to go with Bakoven. This is the first time that I cannot remember a year when Notre Dame went into the season with a quarterback that really didn't have a lot of varsity experience. Yeah. Going back to the days of Jay Graber, he had played as a sophomore and some and then as a junior and senior. You had Anthony Perna, who was injured but came back the next year. And it's just going to be rare with Bakoven, because I don't remember Bakoven much doing quarterbacking last year.
I think he got a little bit of action. I want to say it was in the Trenton game. But, yeah, you're right. Not a whole lot. Good secondary coming back for Notre Dame. You mentioned their defense. Prince Patterson and Devin Griffiths both going to be back for them.
Devin Griffiths. And Notre Dame's always had an outstanding secondary, and that's why they're really – and they play really well in the trenches. So they're a tough team to move the ball against.
Another team we're going to look for, team, you mentioned it, went to the state final last year in Group 3 before losing 47-28. And that was, of course, to Neptune. And that's the Steiner Spartans. Dan Caruso coming back in the West Jersey Football League. He's going to return some weapons, but the loss of Adam Reese, probably one of the finest quarterbacks we've seen here in Mercer County. So that one's going to be a tough player to overcome.
You don't replace a player like Adam Reese, who played for actually 4 years of varsity football. Mm-hmm. The only player in my memory that's ever played in four consecutive Thanksgiving Day games against Hamilton. And Adam Reese had a phenomenal year. He's up in New Hampshire. But the cupboard isn't bare, as they say over at Steiner. You've got an excellent receiver in Vanel Ducis. Mm-hmm. You've got Jeff Mattinelli, who's equally talented as a receiver and really made Adam Reese's job a lot easier because those guys could really catch the ball. And you've got Eddie Ashley, mm-hmm. who really broke in as a outstanding punt return, kick return specialist, and also plays on the defensive, the secondary. You know,
the great offensive unknown.
Yeah, and Eric Asante's back. Mm-hmm. Steiner's not bad. They're going to have a interesting game when they go up against Allentown on Friday night.
Yeah, that game's going to be featured on the WBCB Sports Network. You'll be able to see that one on 107.7 The Bronx and listen on 107.7thebronx.com as well. And coming up on Saturday, another team we're going to have for you on the WBCB Sports Network is the Nottingham North Stars. 6-4 last year, 3-1 in the West Jersey Football League Valley Division. The good news is head coach John Adams, his health looks to be okay. He's going to be back coaching this year, and he's going to have his son out there as a starting quarterback, replacing Isaiah Obado.
Yeah, and he put his son in a little bit last year, and I remember him saying, I think it was one of the games, I think it was late in the year, but he didn't want to, risk his son playing, I think it may have been playing the Trenton game, and he's been on the sidelines. He knows what his dad likes to call. Mm-hmm. So, he's he's got a good football mentality, and he's going to be good. But, of course, the other guy you got to watch for is that powerful running back who we saw last year, Rawway Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid he's a horse.
Yeah, he is.
And, just seeing him without his pads on, I mean, he's so muscular. He's really an outstanding young running back, and if he can stay healthy. And, of course, you still got Luke Westerberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Luke Westerberg, George, you and I always borderline gush about him. What a great athlete he is, whether it's baseball and out there on the field as well. I think back to a game that I did a couple years ago, that overtime game where Luke Westerberg
came in and saved the game for them after Isaiah Obado got hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to be playing wide receiver this year. He's not going to be in at quarterback. And they do have a transfer that's going to help anchor that defense, Ryan Pellegrino out of Steiner.
Yeah, I know. Every once in a while, Nottingham does manage to get a player who transfers over either from Hamilton or from Steiner because of particular courses that they have at Nottingham. Mm-hmm. And Ryan Pellegrino is definitely going to be a big addition to that North Star program that John Adams always does an excellent job with.
Coming up, the next team we're going to look at is the Hamilton Hornets. Now, to me, this is probably the most interesting team in the county. They started out great last year, started out 4-0, and then finished 1-5 down the stretch and ended up missing the playoffs. Now, their horse last year was Brett Stroman. He's not going to be back. But you look at that backfield, a guy we saw a lot, Ruben Desane, he's coming back, quarterback Mark Aquaviva, and Javid James. So a lot of that backfield is going to be back for Hamilton next year.
And I think they may take a lot of people by surprise because everybody remembers Brett Stroman, but they don't remember some of these other guys mm-hmm. that were pretty good running backs. So, and of course, Tom Hoagland always does an outstanding job. They're going to have an interesting matchup in their opener when they go up to play Hopewell Valley on Saturday afternoon. And Hopewell lost outstanding running back in Matt Pagano, the greatest running back statistic-wise in Hopewell history, but. Mm-hmm. Dave Caldwell does an outstanding job, and I think he's got some good young talent coming through. That's going to be an interesting matchup because really Mercer County fans maybe don't know too much about Hamilton or Hopewell Valley, and that should be an outstanding game, a very competitive game.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. And another player that I know you love coming back is Michael Craig on that defensive line.
You know, Michael Craig, you show how old I am now. I remember covering Michael Craig's father, Big Mike Craig. He was about 6'8", and he had to go about almost 300 pounds. And, man, he could move. He was a great track man and is the shot putter. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, he died, about maybe 15 years ago, very young age. But Mike Craig was an outstanding, really a gentleman. I mean, to be that big and so powerful. And, his son reminded me when I first saw him, and I'm thinking, Mike Craig. And then I asked Coach Hoagland, and I said, is he the son of Mike Craig who used to play at Trenton? He said, yep. Mm-hmm. I said, wow, he reminds me just like his father. I mean, because he's big and he's strong. And I was playing as a sophomore. So Michael Craig is really a key on the defense for the Hornets. And I'm looking forward to seeing him this year.
Another team I'm looking forward to see, we talked about him a little bit in the open, is Brian Schoenhauer and the West Windsor-Plainsboro South Pirates. They won the Capital Division last year, came in at 9-2. They lost 21-20 in the Group 4 semifinals, and what was a very weird game, they actually ended up missing an extra point, which ultimately cost them overtime and ended up costing them in the Group 4. Now, they're going to be without Chris Evans, they're going to be without Austin Giuseppe. Brian Schoenhauer is going to be back. Another offensive weapon will be back in Pat Boyle and Tom Evstapios as well. So Todd Smith certainly does have some firepower coming back.
Yeah, I was talking to Todd the other day, and he's really, there's another case. You figure you got Brian Schoenhauer, but what are you going to have with Brian Schoenhauer? Well, he's got some kids that can throw the ball, and he's got a veteran line. He returns 3 of the 5 starters are back in the positions they played last year, and another one who isn't in the same position only because he's been moved over to center, because they moved their center, a young sophomore who did an outstanding job. They moved him over to guard. They got a lot of weapons over there. They always, Todd Smith. They say, you don't rebuild, you just replace, and that's pretty much what West Windsor South does. They'll have an interesting opener because they have a good secondary, and Trenton has the receivers. I mean, they got flat out the fastest guys probably in any team in Mercer County has.
Yeah, Zaire Clemens.
Well, you got Zaire Clemens, you got Akeem Horton, you got Xavier Bailey. Those were 3 of the guys that led Trenton High's track team to the state championship. And, of course, you got Zaire Clemens. He had, 24 receptions last year. 8 of them went for touchdowns. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just a flat-out burner. He's the best 440-meter runner in the state. And he's an All-American potential. But I think he likes probably football more. But if they can just give their young quarterback a little bit of protection, and Trenton has some good linemen with good size, if they can just stick to the fundamentals and get some protection, I mean, Trenton's got a lot of weapons. They always have it, but it's just a matter of, like Raphael Mack says, they just got to keep their focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other teams we want to talk about in Mercer County, West Windsor-Plainsboro, the North Knights, very young team last year, finished 1-9, but head coach Chris Casamento does have a lot of talent coming back.
But it's going to be, they got to get back to where they were a few years ago. They got to get rid of that, start making key plays at the right time, because the Knights really aren't expected to do as much as some of the other teams. Another team that I think you got to watch for could be Rob Radis' Lawrence Cardinals.
Okay.
The Cardinals are not bad. I mean, they lost, Jihad Bryant last year, who came back from an injury and had a 1,000-yard season. But the player who was kind of like his complement in the backfield was Samai Mitchell, and he had almost 700 yards. And they've got some excellent defensive people up front. They're pretty good in the trenches. Their schedule has changed. Lawrence, even though they were one of the smaller schools in the Mercer County, always played against Hamilton, Steiner, Notre Dame. They opened up with Notre Dame pretty much every year. Trenton.
Right.
Well, that schedule has changed now. They're in another division, and they open up, I think, playing Burlington County teams. They open up with Pemberton on Saturday. They got Florence after that. They got Burlington Township coming up. They play Northern Burlington. So, although it's not the rivalry that a lot of the Lawrence kids grew up knowing, there's still a chance. And Rob said, he said, oh, look, our kids just want to be a winning team.
Right.
They don't care who they're playing. They just want to put some W's on the board. And hopefully, the Cardinals can do that, because I like Rob Radis. He's a graduate of Lawrence, one of the few guys in Mercer County who's come back to coach at his alma mater. And he's got a good staff with Dave Basio and Anthony Amarada. I mean, they've been together a long time. They're all former Lawrence graduates. And the last 2 years, after going to the playoffs 6 straight years, the last 2 years they missed out on the playoffs. But Rob kind of thinks that they've added a new group now in NJSIA. You got 5 groups.
Right.
We always had the 4 in the public schools. Now they've added a 5th group, which Lawrence qualifies in that 5th group. So maybe the Cardinals can do something and get back on that winning tradition.
Certainly a team we don't want to glaze over, George, is the accomplishments that Allentown and head coach Jay Graber were able to have last year.
Yeah, they had some excellent running backs. They had a real good package in there, and they got probably one of the best kickers in. I'm trying to think of his name now. He won a couple of games for them in his career already. Mm-hmm. But Frank Juba is a guy to watch in that Allentown attack. I think he plays both ways, and they've got Norman Williams, who was a excellent young running back. I think he plays some defense too. Jay Graber is really going to pull out all the punches. I mean, he's a very innovative coach, and he's going to create some great plays. And it's going to be quite a matchup when they go against Steinert on an opening night Friday night.
It certainly is. And another team we just want to mention real quickly is Heightstown head coach Pete Brescia, in the process of trying to rebuild that program.
And he is. I think Pete Brescia did an excellent job last year. They lost some tough games, and they came back and won a couple of good ones. They've got one of the better quarterbacks, only a sophomore last year, Dustin Krollman, about 6'3", 6'4". He throws a nice pass. They got another guy to watch. There's a guy named Jude Brenya. Mm-hmm. Now, he's a player that already a lot of Division I schools are looking at this kid, and he's only played football, I think, 2 years. He's defensive lineman and offensive lineman. Jude is a very good player, and I think he could be one of the more showcase players in Mercer County this year. And Pete Brescia does a nice job over there. Very, very innovative. Again, another former Notre Dame quarterback.
Yeah,
like Jay Graber, and he's done an outstanding job. And it'd be they open up with a tough game against Nottingham on Saturday afternoon, a game that we'll have on 107.7 The Bronx. And if they can get off to a good start there, that could really bode well for the Rams. They could do a nice job this year.
Don't forget, if you want to see any of our broadcast schedule, you can head to our website, WBCD1490.com. George and I are also on Twitter, at George O'Gorman, at Mike Samsel, so that should be pretty easy for you to remember. Don't forget, the Mercer County Football Show is being brought to you by Your Heart Hospital in the city of Trenton, St. Francis Medical Center, and also Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. We'll come on back, take a look at the games we have coming up this week. It's the Mercer County Football Show here on the WBCD Sports Network.
I'm Jerry Jablonowski, President and Chief Executive Officer of St. Francis Medical Center. For over 137 years, St. Francis has remained committed to the people of Trenton, living out our mission to be a transforming, healing presence in the communities we serve by delivering top-quality health care to all in a personal and compassionate manner. We have continually expanded our services to meet the changing healthcare needs of our city. Despite the hospital changes taking place in Trenton, St. Francis will continue to be here, providing all the residents of Trenton with access to top-quality health care, both at our hospital and within your communities where you live and work. Our renowned services in cardiac care, cancer treatment, and stroke care, in addition to our newly designed comprehensive care of chronic diseases, will continue to provide Trenton with the best in healthcare services. Our emergency room is always open for your immediate needs in times of medical crisis. St. Francis Medical Center will be here so you'll be well.
The Trentonian presents Philadelphia Eagles Football Frenzy. You could win the grand prize to see the Eagles play Dallas in Dallas on December 2nd. Get your copy of the Daily Trentonian to register. Enter between now and September 30th for your chance to win. Every Sunday, the Trentonian is giving out a $100 gift card, a 2-night hotel package for 2 with your choice of a regular season Eagles game, and on October 7th, the grand prize will be announced. A flyaway package to Dallas to see the Eagles take on the Cowboys December 2nd with 2-night hotel accommodations. For entry rules, check the Daily Trentonian and enter as often as you like in the Trentonian or online at Trentonian.com. It's the Philadelphia Football Frenzy from the Trentonian, the only local paper serving both Bucks and Mercer counties.
back here on the Mercer County Kickoff Show here on 1490 WBCB, presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, the Heart Hospital in the city of Trenton, and also Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. Last segment, George, you and I got an opportunity to talk about the teams that we're going to preview most here on the WBCB Sports Network and feature the most. Every week, though, much like we used to do on the 12th Man Touchdown Club, you and I are going to scroll through Mercer County. We'll pick our games, we'll keep our records, and I expect you to slay me in this segment of the show. Probably, I would say at least 10 or 15 games better than me, but what do you think?
I don't know. I wouldn't put that much confidence in my selections.
All right, coming up, game number 1 we'll take a look at. Robbinsville will be heading down in the Burlington County. They'll be taking on Bordentown.
I thought they're home.
Or they are home, yes.
I thought Robbinsville's at home, and Jason Gray always does an outstanding job. They missed out on the playoffs last year, but the Ravens are a pretty good ball club, and although Bordentown kind of came on late last year, I like Robbinsville. Robbinsville's doing an excellent job, and they're consistent. They lost some really good players like Ryan Zuchek, I believe it was. Brett Davidowski is an excellent quarterback, and I'm not sure if he's back yet or not this year.
Davidowski, no, he's actually, we were talking about the Sunshine Football Classic. He's
Okay.
heading to the Atlanta Sports Institute or whatever the school was that we were talking about.
Oh, that's where Brett
Stroman
Stroman
heading
went,
there too,
and the kid from Ewing. The running back that was hurt and didn't get a chance to play basketball. He's going down.
Right,
there
Darryl
too.
Griffin, and Dawidowski's heading down that way as well. Coming up
Princeton, don't forget Princeton. Last year they knocked off in the opening game. They beat Northern Burlington, which went on to be the top seed in Central Jersey Group 3.
Yeah.
Now Princeton, under Joe Gargione, they lost some key people. I think they lost Alex Mitko. I think he was one of the reasons they beat Northern Burlington, but then he got injured.
Right.
So I think it's going to be an interesting game as they go against Northern Burlington, which should be one of the better teams coming out of that Burlington County area.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Cinnaminson will be taking on Ewing.
Ewing got a new coach. One of the, I guess the only new coach in the CVC this year, or Mercer County, and Drew Bessler, who's another former Notre Dame product. Played his football at Notre Dame High School. They've got Nigel Williams, who last year, when Darryl Griffin was hurt in the second game, Nigel had played the first game because Williams was sitting out of suspension, or Griffin was sitting out of suspension. Then they came back at Bordentown, and on the first quarter, Darryl Griffin got hurt.
Yeah, he tore up his ACL.
And Nigel Williams had an outstanding year. I mean, he threw some really good passes. He had some excellent receivers. Ron Valentine, who sticks in my memory, he was an excellent receiver for the Blue Devils. They've got a few other guys. The key to Ewing is they've always got the good running backs. They've always got good receivers. They got a quarterback that can throw. They just got to get it done in the trenches.
Right.
They've had some big linemen who really haven't performed to what they should be doing. So we'll see if maybe with Drew Bessler has changed that mentality a little bit and has a more, aggressive group up in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be a big key. And I mean, you look at the Ewing baseball team, you see what the basketball team did last year, winning the state title. As far as athletics go, that's a school that's really on the rise.
Well, they're on the rise coming back because for a long time they were one of the dominant programs, athletic programs in all of Mercer County. You go back to the years when Bruce March was coaching the football team, when Andy Greener was coaching the baseball team, and Emil Wandishir was coaching, the basketball teams, and they were a perennial state contender in all three of those sports. And you got three legendary coaches there, Hall of Fame coaches. And then Ewing kind of slipped off for a while, but gradually they're coming back. It's still a program. It's still a community that takes a lot of pride in their athletic programs, and we started to see them come back in baseball just a couple of years ago when they had, they're on their way back. But that's an outstanding program and an outstanding school and with a great tradition. And I know it hurts a lot of the former graduates and a lot of the old-timers in the community who remember, what Ewing used to be, and they really want to get back to there.
Well, next game we're going to take a look at, we're going to venture down into Burlington County with this one, too, but it's a team we're going to cover a lot for you here on the WBCB Sports Network this year, and that's the Florence Flashes. They're taking on one of their big-time rivals in New Egypt. A playoff game last year, if I remember, which Florence won, and they're returning a couple starters, and, of course, Joe Frapoli.
Well,
he's going to put a good football team out there pretty much every year.
Yeah, when you talk about Hall of Fame coaches, there's nobody like Joe Frapoli, and that New Egypt game is usually that game has been late in the season.
Right.
Remember a couple of years ago they played the last regular season game, and then they came back and played them in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Florence last year had 3 outstanding running backs and went to the College of New Jersey and lost to Asbury Park in the Central Jersey Group 1 championship. So you never count the flashes out, and I got a feeling that Frapp's going to have another really strong team again this year. And look, Florence never struggles. I mean, I can't remember if ever Florence had a losing season. So,
right.
I just... New Egypt, for a young school, basically, 10, 12 years old, has really come on strong with a lot of good sports. That's a game that really you could build up to in previous years when it was late in the season. Now it's the opener. I don't like that. But
yeah, that's interesting that they decide to open the season with that, but it's certainly one that's going to grab a lot of attention.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Next game we'll have coming up for you, Trentonian pregame show on this one, going to start at 6:45 on 107.7 The Bronx and 107.7thebronx.com. Georgia game you and I have talked about a lot, and that's Steinert and Allentown. I'll be on the call for that one. I believe I'll be joined by Tom Monfiletto. Hope to see you out there sometime soon. But Steinert and Allentown, this is a fun way to open up the season.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's rare when you get two of what was the best teams of the 2011 season meeting in the opening game.
Right.
2 teams that got to the playoffs last year. Steinert really is not a team that a lot of people... Well, we knew they were going to be good. I think a lot of people outside of Mercer County weren't sure of them. Allentown then turned it around and nearly upset Neptune in that first round of the state playoffs. And both of those teams made the Central Jersey Group 3 playoffs.
Yeah.
And here they are meeting in the first game of the season. I just think Steinert has a little bit too much offense. I'm not sure of what Jay Graver's got coming back, but I know Steinert's got a lot coming back. And if they can just solidify the play, then they can get in the line. They've got weapons like Deuces and Martinelli, who they can throw the ball too.
Fidel Deuces is certainly probably the player to watch here in Mercer County this year. I'm really excited to see what he does. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Allentown kind of plays the Steinert team and how Steinert comes together as a team. I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to take Allentown just because I think that team is a bit more together, though Steinert may be more talented. Moving on to Saturday's action, we have about 3 games for you on Saturday. Hamilton will take on Hopewell Valley. That's going to be a pretty interesting one for both teams. It's a good opportunity for Hamilton to show what they have coming back.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks there for both programs coming into this season. They both were, average at best last year. Hamilton started out real well, then struggled. They had that game with the only snowstorm that we had last year. Remember, it came on Halloween
6-0.
weekend, and they beat Trenton in overtime 6-0. Without Brett Stroman, I'm really not sure what the Hornets are going to be able to do offensively and moving the ball. We know they can always play good defense.
Right.
And I really don't... Losing Matt Pagano is a crusher for Hopewell Valley, because he was an outstanding running back. As I said, had 1,000 yards, the first 1,000-yard rusher in Hopewell history. I'm going to go with Tom Hogan and the Hornets to get another good year started, and then they get ready for Notre Dame next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Hoagland and the Hornets as well, only because there's so much talent coming back in that backfield. I know it might not be a name you know yet, but trust me, Ruben DeSaint has a lot of talent in that backfield. The game we're going to feature for you on 1490 WBCB online, WBCB1490.com. Trentonian pregame show starting at 1:45 will be Heightstown and Nottingham. Nottingham is going to be a very interesting team this year. A lot of it's going to depend on the right arm of Stephen Adams.
And Stephen Adams, in his opening game, his first start as the quarterback for the North Stars, is going to be going against a junior quarterback, Dustin Krollman, for Heightstown, who really has that year of experience under his belt. And Krollman, for a young quarterback last year, did a good job. I mean, there's some people out around the Heightstown, East Windsor area, who think he's got potential to be a good college quarterback. He's got the size,
right?
And I think it'll be interesting to see some of the matchups when you can get a guy like Jude Brenya playing defense for Heightstown, bringing down a running back with the power of a Rawway Williams.
Yeah, that will be fun for sure.
That's going to be like the stuff you see on NFL highlight films with those two crashing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that game will be on WBCB 1490 starting at 1:45. Final game of the weekend that we're going to take a look at here on the Mercer County Football Show is Trenton and West Windsor Plainsboro South. I love the speed of Trenton in this game, but I think West Windsor Plainsboro South is just going to be too talented.
Yeah, too talented. They're too versatile. They've got more experience than the Tornadoes have coming back. Trenton's got Trumaine Nieves is a kid to watch. I mean, he's a powerful fullback. He was hurt in the beginning of last year, and he runs hard. He's got speed. He plays linebacker.
We discovered him in that Hamilton game in the snow.
He's a good running back, but I just don't know. Trenton's got the weapons in, like I said, in Zaire Clemens, and they got Hakeem Horton. They got Xavier Bailey. They got some guys that can catch the ball, but are they going to get the protection that the young quarterback needs? Well, not a young quarterback, but an inexperienced quarterback is going to need to get the ball downfield. I got to go with West Windsor South because, like I said, Todd Smith, he doesn't rebuild, he just reloads, and he's got enough kids this year, and he's going to have more kids coming. A lot of these kids are still going to have another year to go. So I just think that West Windsor South has too much, too many weapons for Trenton to contend with.
Yeah, I'm with you. Shane Hauer, Eustathios, Boyle, these are all really good young athletes, and I think West Windsor Plainsboro South gets the win in this game. All right, George, it's time for the segment that we're going to call Ask Oj. If you want to ask, you can head to our website, WBCB1490.com. Email me, msamsel, WBCB1490.com, or twitter.com @Mike Samsel. So question number 1 for Ask Oj on the year. George, who is the best quarterback you've ever seen play in Mercer County?
How far back we going?
However far back you want to go.
I don't know if I can say one.
Mm-hmm.
I could say a couple.
Yeah.
Jay Graber would have to be at right near the top of that list. The quarterbacks that a couple of years ago, West Windsor had an outstanding quarterback. This is before your time. I'm trying to think of what his name was. It's my mind. I have so many of them.
Yeah.
He was an outstanding quarterback. I mean, going back to the legendary, as Tony Perch likes to say, the legendary Trenton High undefeated football team.
Yeah.
Although it had a tie back in '71, I think, or '70. Alan Skip Scott was a great quarterback. You had guys. I mean, now I'm going back to the old timers. Remember these guy like Rick Sokolowski over at Notre Dame. I mean, Rick Sokolowski over there at Steiner was an outstanding quarterback. I'm just trying to think of some more of the guys from. I know there was a couple of quarterbacks. Ewing had some outstanding quarterbacks. Who was it? Harry David? No. I can't think of them all. I'd have to sit down and... If I had the list in front of me, I could probably say this guy, that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like I said, there are a few that stick out in your mind, and Jay Graber would definitely be one of them. Anthony Perna. Except although he got hurt a couple of years ago, Anthony Perna was an outstanding quarterback at Notre Dame, really, because he was the son of a coach. His dad, Bill Perna, was a former star running back at Notre Dame, and Anthony Perna did an outstanding job succeeding the kid that went to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. I forget his name now. Notre Dame University to play lacrosse.
Right.
But Perna did an outstanding job, then got hurt. And Sam McDermott, I think, took over.
Sam McDermott, took over for Anthony Perna. He was the quarterback up until last year. And I know a guy that you and I had the treat of covering, Adam Reese, as well.
Another guy, how can I forget him? He made it to the NFL. The only quarterback in Mercer County to make it to the NFL was Scott Bruner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Scott Bruner from Lawrence High School. Not only did he make it to the NFL, he, after a Lawrence career, went on to play, had an outstanding career at Delaware, got drafted by the Giants. An interesting thing, when the Giants ended their long streak of not getting to the playoffs, they came back and beat the Eagles, and Scott Bruner was the quarterback.
Very interesting.
He's one of the, he's definitely got to be, right up there among the top 3 quarterbacks in Mercer County that I can remember.
That's a great way to wrap up our first Mercer County football show here on WBCB1490.com, brought to you by St. Francis Medical Center, the Heart Hospital in the city of Trenton, as well as Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. Big thanks to Bill Redner, Matt Miro, and Jeff Bowen for helping us out on today's broadcast. That's George O'Gorman. I'm Mike Samsel. We'll see you next Wednesday and every Wednesday throughout the high school football season here on WBCB1490.com. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.